be we will give you the floor and let you know when you can ask your question. So that was that. That shouldn't be difficult at all. Now, let me introduce today's presenter. She's called Carmen Ceinos, and Carmen has a long experience of working with research and development projects, especially with EU projects, more than 20 years. She's got experience with large consortia and implementation and exploitation of IT solutions, mainly in the health sector. And today she will present some of the tools that can improve project communications. The floor is yours, Carmen.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Daniel. Good morning to all of you. Thank you very much for being here. And I hope I won't I will use all your patience to go through the whole presentation. It's not going to be too long. I will really appreciate that if your questions and the issues you want to raise, they're going to enrich this presentation that is pretending to be a tool to help you to identify interesting and important aspects of your dissemination plan, but not just that, but also make a sort of reflection of how dissemination can be extremely helpful during the life of your projects, and then after that during the exploitation. Given the characteristics of the seminar and the length, we cannot go through a real plan of what should be a dissemination plan as a deliverable. We will give you mainly hints and issues to think about and to reflect. And I'm really sorry that we cannot go deeper into this work that really needs a more detailed and profound work. Then, as you know, we had the two seminars. Yesterday, we had the seminar with Rod. He went into more deeper identification of what are the main assets of your project that are absolutely necessary if you want to disseminate something, of course. I'm going to try to go into the part more practical, which is what is the dissemination strategy? What are the dissemination elements you need to take into consideration when making your plan? Based on the assets you have, on the knowledge of your project. This one, as I said, is going to be mainly focusing on the outside world, the dissemination. Then the objective, and I hope we can make it, is to help you to learn about the elements you need to consider when you make your plan. Also to understand the importance of the dissemination during the life of your project and for your future plans. Of course, it's important, but we will try to deep into that. And then at the end, to help you change your view about the dissemination that normally is seen as one of the contractual obligations we have that doesn't have too much to do with the real work of your project. I'm going to try to change a little bit that view, see if we can make it. So finally, all these should enhance or help to comply with your communication dissemination work package that, as you know, is a must in your H2020 projects and also in FP7. And also it will introduce you to IBCO activities that I'm part of it and see if we can be of help, not just with this dissemination, with this webinar, but in the future to help you with your communication, dissemination and exploitation issues, which is our objective. So the table of contents is basically to describe very quickly the the concepts that run around communication. Then to ask ourselves and to give some replies to why we need to disseminate. What are the main elements we need to take into the consideration? The 5 questions we need to reply to in order to make a good dissemination plan. Then give you some hints and success indicators that may in a practical way, help you to better understand what I'm trying to explain to you, hopefully. Okay, then the first thing is that the basic concepts we deal with are, and you hear all the time, mixed: dissemination, communication, exploitation, sustainability. Those are normally very well related and very related in many documents. We are going to be focusing mainly on the first two. Once again, the meaning of these words can be totally different from one person to another. In the frame of the European projects, as you know, we give them a very specific meaning that we will try to understand, to better explain here. Then dissemination and communication, that to start with, for me, still are two words that are interchangeable, are defined to the process to making results of the project available to the stakeholders and to the wider audience. I'm using terminology and definitions that I get from the European Commission paperwork. Okay, both in the guide for applicants, guide for evaluators, etc., etc. Then a good identification of objectives and stakeholders, that thing is extremely important for your dissemination plan or for your communication plan. Okay, so we will go into that later on. Compared with this, the exploitation focuses on the use of the results of the project after the life of the project. That's the main objective. Then in the concept of exploitation, issues like market analysis, IPR issues are extremely important, which is not the case when we are dealing with our dissemination. And then finally, sustainability refers to those activities that will help the project to continue its life after the end of the project and after the end of the EC economical support. Of course, dissemination, being totally different from all this, is extremely important, sets the basis, paves the ground for the exploitation and the sustainability after the end of the project. Then, in other words, while dissemination and communication are dealing with informing to the community, raising awareness and engaging, when we deal with exploitation and sustainability, we are more related with the selling of the project and ensuring the uptake and the sustainability, the continuation of the project after the life of the project as EU funded. Then dissemination and communication will have a very important role, as I said before, in the future exploitation and sustainability. They are not independent at all. On the contrary, there is a direct relation. Then, when we try to justify and try to give importance and relevance to dissemination, which personally for me is one of the essential topics of a project, there are three main elements that explain that importance, that can justify it. First of all, because the dissemination has to support the European Union view. Second, because it's a part of our contractual obligation, so we have to deliver. And finally, because we are convinced, and I'm sure you are also, that dissemination activities will help and we gain coherence within the own consortium. Okay, it is a really important cohesion element of a consortium, and this is what we will try to explain during the presentation. From the European point of view, when we said that dissemination is important for the EU, keep in mind, and this is only a reflection, that has a number of objectives. Somehow, when we disseminate, we are also being part of this EU policy we have been funded by. So we need to make sure when we think about disseminating what we do, that our discourse, our language, our way of presenting is linked with the policy and the objectives that are in the EU program we are being part of. For example, you know, all this language this list that I'm giving here to you is a list of the EU language about the EU policies for a specific program. So when we are dealing with let's say, an accompanying measure of a research, of innovation, or we used to work with CIP projects, each one of them replies to a specific policy of the European Commission that highlights one value or another value, either the importance of the collaboration or showing that the results will help the lives of the European citizens. This language and these policy elements should be somehow also taken into account in your dissemination activity. Being yourself, your project, part of the EU dissemination. That will help us to have a much better relation with our officers and get more support from the European Commission in our projects. Okay? Instead of saying, well, we are here doing our research and, well, we will do dissemination because we have to, but I mean, the important thing is our research. Please keep in mind the importance of the program you are part of. Then, continuing with this important thing, and I'm really sorry if I insist on that, but I think that sometimes it helps to avoid problems we may have with the Commission and with the reviewers in our projects. If we give more importance, we show to them that we are taking those things into account. So, even if we have different requirements in our guides for applicants, this aspect of the dissemination is not specific for your specific topic, but it replies to the overall policy view, as I said to you. So the dissemination plan and the specific funding program are two things that need to be related. You need to learn about it. You need to know about it. Then look at about the impact, for example. As you know, in H 2020, this is an extremely important factor. Okay, is the first factor. Well, after the scientific excellence, but is a main factor to evaluate a proposal. And impact, once again, is extremely important in its relation with dissemination. In order to have an impact, you need to plan and to have a really good dissemination plan. That's very clear. Then, if you think about the obligations that are written in your contract, you will identify a number of things that are listed to be mandatory. But please keep in mind, remember that only 7-8 years ago, even 5 years ago, the only obligation you had in your dissemination activities contractually was to have a web in month 3, or to have a Facebook or things like that, or have a pamphlet or a brochure. Right now, those elements are much more important. You cannot simply have the web and then to have a LinkedIn that doesn't work, or produce a pamphlet or a nice little report. The Commission expects from you to be much more active and not just to do a good dissemination from your own, but take into account the different agents that are on the other side, like, for example, the stakeholders, the end users. So all these aspects have to be taken into account when you plan your dissemination. Okay, this is an extremely important thing if we want to really comply, and we have to, we want to comply with the requirements. So I hope this part is clear and understandable, and I think is an opportunity more than a problem. We need to do more work. It's an opportunity, I understand, to get a better relation with the European Commission, with the reviewers. And finally, it has a lot of added value for yourself and for your future exploitation. So I insist, take it from the beginning as something that is an opportunity for you, the dissemination. Then for the consortium point of view, keep in mind that it has a really important value, and I try to synthesize some of the important elements that justify the dissemination as an important tool for the consortium. Of course, by disseminating what you are doing, promoting and doing awareness about what you are doing now, which is not a result, it's still something that is, ongoing, you are creating and generating a demand for your future products somehow. And you are also identifying through your dissemination work future organizations or initiatives that may help to support your final exploitation and sustainability. And of course, it enhances the profile of the different partners of the consortium that benefit from this stamp that the European project gives to you, among many other things. Then another important thing is that the dissemination, the plan for dissemination, considered as an exercise you do in your project, has a very important value because it helps. It's an exercise that helps the partner to share a common view about the project. Imagine in most of the cases, or in many cases, the consortiums during the preparation phase of the proposal are built with phone calls and emails and a core team working on the proposal, while the other partners are coming in with a very light and not tight relation with the core of what is being built. And then one day you receive the news that you have been ranked and you have been funded. And here you have a consortium that in many cases didn't work before together and don't know each other, or only a part of them know each other, sharing for the next 3, 4 years, 2 years, a project where everybody has a different view about it. Planning the dissemination, discussion about what is the message we want to give to the outside world helps to clarify internally what do we want to do, first of all, and how do we see the project, what do we expect from the project, and ask ourselves as consortium all those questions that are absolutely necessary to do a future dissemination. So instead of saying, okay, this company is going to take care of dissemination, please let us work and you do your job, I think you need to really consider this first dissemination exercise at the kickoff, if you want to, as setting together and thinking about how we see the project, what do we want, what do we expect, and in this way, building up a common message. You will be able, first of all, to work much better, to identify future problems of inconsistencies between partners, which is something that it really happens often, and also will help to have a more coherent dissemination to the outside world. And I insist on this because my experience is, for a number of years working with different consortiums and seeing after a year of project that partners don't share a view about the project. They couldn't care less about disseminating. And of course, when the moment comes to try to make that thing feasible in the future, to talk about future exploitation, many partners are not involved at all, not interested at all. So please use dissemination plan, dissemination preparation as a way of making the consortium coherent and identifying the missing elements. Then when we go into making the plan, I try to present it as a set of questions that we need to ask ourselves to make a good dissemination plan. The why, the background of the project, to whom, the stakeholders to whom we want to disseminate, who will be finally the beneficiaries in different ways. The what is the message we want to pass, the objectives and methods, which is the how, when we should start to do what type of dissemination, because of course we have many different. And then finally, other elements you need to consider in your dissemination plan, the money, for example. Let's see, most of the cases we don't give any money to dissemination, and then at the end we see, we need to organize a conference, or it will be good to produce some document or some marketing product, and we don't have any money for that. So the budget and the way you evaluate, you decide and you plan your funding for dissemination is extremely important. And finally, the evaluation, to give indicators to yourself and then to the reviewers about the success of your dissemination. is what do we want from that activity? What is the purpose of the specific activity we want to do? Okay, and then the questions, the main questions could be to raise awareness, to inform about what we do, or to educate, to engage, and finally to promote, sell the outputs and results. In each case, our dissemination actions will vary. So we need to know exactly what we planned, what is the purpose of our dissemination, to find the right tool and the right time to. Then in terms of the background, one of the things we need to do is also an exercise, okay, is to ask ourselves a number of questions to locate and to put our project in context. Our own context sometimes is we are part of the call for proposals, blah, blah, blah. Our topic is this one, and we are within PHP something. Well, no, there is another world outside, and this is important for dissemination because the dissemination, and the Commission insists on that, cannot be internal, cannot be for ourselves and other projects like us, as it used to happen in the past. The Commission used to organize consultation activities where projects will talk to projects about what they do. This is over. The Commission, the challenge for us now is that the Commission, with more or less justification sometimes, wants us right from the beginning to talk about impact, to talk about results, to talk about community that will benefit from our work, and we need to start to ask ourselves a number of questions that I think I try to summarize in this list you have in front, to try to locate our project in a realistic way, in a wider context, not just the EU framework project, okay? Then, a very extremely important element, and this is something that the European Commission insists in their programs, are that we need to address our dissemination, we need to adapt to the different stakeholders that are important elements in our project. And then the keyword stakeholders and constituency are part of this jargon that is used in the European projects, but you cannot avoid it. It's there, it's important, and you will be asked to explain how you are addressing to the different stakeholders that will benefit from the results of your project. And you need to do that in your dissemination activity. And then the stakeholder is a crucial element and is called target groups. You know, we used to call it target groups, now we call it stakeholders. But in any case, it relates to all these organizations, individuals, groups that may have an impact and may benefit from our project, and they have something to say about what our project is going to be delivering. Okay, so this is an extremely important thing that you need to take into account, is crucial. Okay, then when you try to do the analysis of the stakeholders that you need to do it. I mean, analysis means to really think about it and identify the stakeholders, and I try to put names to them. I mean, associations, insurance companies, call it as you wish. We make normally, and this is a work that has been done and is really today, there are methodologies, very specific methodologies to address the stakeholders. We mainly define 5 different types: the end users, the ones that benefit directly, the decision makers and the replicant actors, the market actors, the internal audience, which is our internal, the companies and how our own company or organization sees our project, of course, is a stakeholder, there is no doubt. And finally, the funding authority, in our case, is going to be mainly EC, but in some programs like AAL can be the AEC and the national authorities, or in Interreg programs maybe also different. So, but for the sake of our work, it will be the EC. Of course, the EC is a stakeholder, is a client, another way of saying it, and we need to take into account what we say to them and how we say it, because depending on the stakeholders, we present our message, our results, our awareness campaign in a different way. Then when we go now into the content, what we can disseminate, we need to first of all know and keep in mind at one point in the project we are disseminating. Of course, we cannot think about disseminating results when we are in month 10. On the contrary, when we are at the end of the project, we cannot keep saying we will do this or we will do that, in the sense that we are still talking about the beginning of the project. We need at each time of the project to be very clear about what we disseminate, that is realistic and is really adapted and coordinated with the actual activity of the project. As reviewer, I have been reviewing projects for a good number of years. One of the things that you hate is when they come into the dissemination activities that normally are considered as, well, the easygoing thing. They come and they cut and paste what they say they will do at the beginning of the project. The dissemination, really it pays off because it's reviewed and considered by the reviewers as an important part, because now we are in all these issues about impact, exploitation, and dissemination is part of this whole thing. Okay, then try to adapt at every time of your project your what you are disseminating. Of course, you cannot give the results of an evaluation process of a control trial when you are in month 20 or before you publish it. But for sure, you can do that in month 28, or you can provide that information already. So try at each time of your project, as your project advances, to adapt, okay, what you are disseminating. Okay, this is an example of some of the messages that can be, that will be present in your communication. Is very simplistic, but I think it maybe from practical point of view, explain maybe better than me what I'm trying to say. That of course you need to explain clearly what you are doing and why, but clearly to the stakeholders, not to yourself, okay? So not assuming that the stakeholders know exactly how important is your work. Of course, you need to adapt. You need to sell it somehow, although in the research community, this word is, of course, not very attractive, but is an easy way of explaining. The same way you need to speak to all your audiences, and for each audience adapt and highlight those things that the audience is expecting you to say, addressed to their own interests. Okay, and then put your project in value, of course, but in the context. So comparing with others, making people understand what is the advance your project is proposing. And finally, don't forget the objective when you do the dissemination activity. The objective will imply a specific message. So going back to the practical terms and the questions we ask ourselves, the how is extremely important. But once again, we need to select the method we want to apply, and this method is really related with the objectives and with the content. Of course, is all linked. For example, when we are trying to give awareness about our project that just starting, that is a wish, that is still in the first phases. Of course, we go to press releases, newsletter, articles. When we want to transmit information, we will use mainly our website, reports, etc. And then when we try to focus on outcomes, we are in a time of the project that really can provide information and can be presented to the others. Then we go into the conference, presentations, seminars, workshops, etc. related to its dissemination. Most of the dissemination channels have are related with a specific message, and you need to consider for each message you want to pass at a certain point of your project what will be the best one. And then when we go into the timing, this is also extremely important, because when we plan, and we need to make a dissemination plan, and the timing, of course, is essential, we need what are the most important milestones in your project that can be disseminated. And then link your dissemination activity, let's say a workshop, with the timing that your project is giving some results that can be promoted. And you need somehow to match the progress of your project with your dissemination activity. Okay, when you make your plan and you confirm to the Commission, okay, this is my plan, and the Commission will use that dissemination plan you produce in month 3 or 4 of your project with the results you give later on. Please think it twice before you write, well, in month 18 we will have a workshop. Okay, try to match that workshop or that activity you say that you will do with the actual with a plan timing for your results. I know it's obvious, but unfortunately, it's not always the case. Apparently it's obvious, but in practical terms, someone is doing the dissemination plan and someone is doing the project. Like if there were two different things, please, once again, try to match. Okay, and another important thing is when you make your plan in terms of timing and you make your Gantt chart for your dissemination, try to identify also as part of your dissemination work other activities that may be happening, conference, events, commissions, info days, so you can benefit from the dissemination capacity of these other events to include as a satellite, as an action the day before, the day after of your project. Okay, so try to somehow correlate your dissemination activities when you make your plan with the ones that are that are organized by the Commission, or big events that may be happening in the topics you are working. Okay, consider those external activities. They can make easier your dissemination activity with less money, with less investment. You can make your activity, your dissemination, modest or not modest activity, going to a wider audience. Okay, and this is, of course, because we go back to the indicators, success indicators. This is helps you to have good indicators in your dissemination actions. Then once again, imagine that you need to make that nice Gantt chart. You consider when you organize your timing, when you want to do at the beginning, you want to engage, you want to promote, to get people know about your projects, and then when you are into the final results, you need to be more proactive, more into the conference, workshops, etc. Okay, so all this has to be somehow reflected from the beginning in your dissemination plan. Okay, and then once again, going into the where, keep in mind that one of the added values of the dissemination is that it may also help you, not just at the European level that you need to disseminate your results, but also at local level, at your own internal level too. So you can use this value, because it's a value that the stamp of the European Commission gives your organization for being part of an European project, to take advantage, not just at European complying with all the requirements, but also at your national and local level too. Okay, it provides you higher visibility. Okay, don't forget to disseminate at these different levels. And then finishing, about the success indicators, as you have noticed too, one of the things about the H 2020 is more and more the Commission is asking us right from the beginning to say what are going to be the KPIs, the KPIs, key performance indicators, or the success indicators. So we are trending apparently to make numbering of our success. I don't know if at the end the reviewers will be reviewing a table with indicators and say yes or no, but it's true that in practical terms, we need somehow to show in a quantifiable way the success. Keep in mind that, try to implement it, even if you have not been asked for, is seen by the reviewers and by the commission in general as a good outcome of your project, that you have been able to give an objective value and assessment of success to your dissemination activities. Okay, and this is simply an example. They can be both quantitative and qualitative, or only quantitative. But I'm sure that in a few years this is going to be absolutely mandatory. Now it is for some type of projects, but it will be probably in the future for everything. And I don't know how we will end up reviewing. But then now I would like to finish this with a list of tips that are the result of the experience, not just myself, but that I gathered from other colleagues, partners, and projects that may help you to improve your dissemination and to avoid doing mistakes that I also listed here. Now, going again to the assessment, the first again, tips. Again, I insist, try to fight against the reluctance of some of the partners of your project to be involved in the dissemination, which is not, going to that awful workshop that I won't do anything and I won't have anything to say because I'm in the research part, or I just don't care until the end of the project, blah, blah, blah. First of all, try to have everybody involved from the beginning and try to avoid that reluctance, looking at the added value in terms of cohesion, okay? And then identify your milestones in your project. Of course, there is always a dependency, you may be delayed, etc. But I try to identify those milestones and try to link them with a specific dissemination activity you can do at that point. I'm sure there are many, for each project, there are many elements that can be disseminated that we think of. We tend to think, well, I go until the end and at the end I will tell someone what I did. No, this is not the idea, okay? And again, try to set a benchmark to evaluate your dissemination activity. And now in the list of the issue of the budget, keep budget for your dissemination. Nobody wants to keep budget, but the commission gives you budget for that. Keep budget for dissemination activities. It will pay off. Okay, and then when we are thinking about extra and additional funds, for example, okay, let's say that one of the disseminations is organizing an event. Okay, we organize a midterm workshop, a final workshop. Please try to benefit for every single action that is happening out there to minimize your cost and maximize the impact. Try to get the European Commission to help you to be at the meeting. If you can link it with a call for proposals on Information Day or anything that relates with EU framework, you know for sure that that will attract too. So try to think of your dissemination, in this case, mainly the more expensive activities like organizing a workshop, a final conference, something like that. Try to link it with other sources of funding, indirect. That needs thought, but it pays to do it. And of course, the European Commission is really keen in supporting this. So you will find, in general, a lot of support from the Commission, from your officer, etc., to help you there, to come and make a presentation there, to come and give, the stamp of what the European Commission is really on favor of this. Okay, you need to work with that. You cannot isolate yourself from. Think of when you are working on your plan. before you think on the media, okay, let's have a conference, think about the audience, the targets, and the message. What's the best way to address them? Okay, be interactive listening to stakeholders. You may have advisory boards, and you know that those advisory boards that may have a scientific paper, they can also be a stakeholder informing us and providing us important input that we need to take into account. And be sure that the activities are the best ones you can have for a certain point of your project, and you use the right language. And go local. It will pay off also. You will have much more doors open when you go local with an EU project than when you go local on your own local. And you know that for sure, I'm sure. And it's really worth it. It's one of the added values of being in an European project, for sure. And then common mistakes. Well, just the opposite of what you just say. In the case that we start thinking about the media and we don't know what really to say. I mean, if we want to have a press release, we need to write that press release related with something that is happening, that is important, and needs to have a press release. That's clear. And then when you go and try to talk about your project and your objectives are not clear, of course, you can see that you release what is in the description of work, but those objectives are not clear enough. You made it wrong. Once again, issues about the budget or messages that are not tailored to the type of users, or no concrete targets for success indicators, okay, or the lack of professional expertise to deal with dissemination. But be careful, the professional expertise is important to deal with dissemination, to make a web, for example, or to write a nice paper. But the dissemination doesn't mean that you have one guy that is taking care of dissemination, that is a professional, and the rest forget about it. No, that's not it. But of course, you need that professional to over that professional, someone that is more expert on the topic to provide a global view. And then finally, that will be, I think it's already my last, my last one. I list a number of elements to be considered when preparing a communication strategy, a dissemination plan, okay, that I won't go through them. I want you just to have them, to read them when you have time, and to take them into account if they can be helpful, because somehow they summarize the expertise of a number of people dealing with this and being working on this field for many years. And I think that finally, with all these elements, you know that we are fulfilling the requirements from the H 2020 program, and at the same time, we are ensuring through this that our exploitation will be feasible, and that we will finally, not all of us, not the consortium, but the project as a whole, will have a feasible exploitation, okay, based in the work we did already. And this is what we finally want, theoretically, to exploit the results. So I think in summary, we intend to provide some basic concepts. I hope we did. We illustrate them, and we provide you some practical tools. It was a modest objective in a really short time. I hope it was not too much time. And finally, we're very happy to share issues with you, to reply to your questions, whatever you want to ask. Thank you very much for your patience. Oops, why it doesn't go? There was another slide saying thank you here. Thank you for your kind attention, and please, the floor is yours if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carmen, for this interesting presentation. So if there are questions, please write in the chat window or raise your hand, and I'll give you the floor. Many thank yous here. Thank you for listening. Appreciated.
No questions? Anyway, should we talk again about IVISIO? Is Vicky presenting some of the activities of IVISIO to help in dissemination and
Yes,
exploitation?
we're waiting for Vicky to join. And
Okay.
oh yes, Eileen, Connolly, I see your question there. Missed your colleague missed the presentation, and it is possible because we can record this session and we'll publish it on the project website, or so you will be able to find it there later today or tomorrow or so. And the website is www.hivco.eu, and I can recommend everyone to visit that site. And I think our project partner Vicky will talk more about what you can do on the website.
Okay. Thank you
Vicky.
again for the patience. Vicky. Okay, here is
Can you
Vicky.
hear me?
Yes.
Hi Vicky, welcome.
Good morning. People who attended yesterday's webinar has already heard my presentation. HiVisio wants to help the project and support in a more practical manner. So we have developed a community at the website where you can register for free, and there you can upload the project results very easily. And about the benefits you may have being a part of this community is the dissemination, where you can enhance the visibility of your project results, a key dissemination target. You can find stakeholders and other projects to establish collaboration with them. And of course, you can anytime access the training material we have uploaded there in videos and PowerPoints and PDFs and many different type of files. So at the next slide, you can see the the website link. The registration takes less than 5 minutes, and you can directly use your LinkedIn account. And this activity, being a part of our community, may be considered as a direct exploitation and dissemination activity of your project. As you can see in the next slide, an example of a new project in Horizon 2020 has registered our community and has promoted this, and you can follow this example. So after this call, I advise you and I encourage you to spend just 5 minutes to register to our website and also join our social media, where you will find all the materials of this webinar, and you can make questions and get your answers very quickly. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Of course, Carmen, the floor is yours.
Yes, simply, I'm reading now the comments. Some of the participants are asking for examples of indicators for quantify the success of your dissemination activities. What I propose, we have some coming from different projects. I mean, no copy from projects, but from different experiences, or others that are defined in other methodologies for dissemination. I propose to introduce a document with those indicators, with some examples in our, because I'm cutting in the middle, but in a previous presentations we did presential, we were doing a training session where we will ourselves build up a dissemination plan. And in that dissemination, we will use indicators. So I can I hope it is.
That's a very good idea.
Okay, then I can do that in a couple of days. You will find in the iVisio web, link it. I don't know, Vicky, if you can be associated, link it to this web, a document together with the PDF of the presentation containing examples of indicators for assessing the impact or the value of the dissemination activities. Okay?
So this will be announced.
Thank you, Carmen. I think that
We'll do that. Okay.
answered both Roberto's and Polivio's question.
Yeah, I hope so.
So yeah, I hope you're happy with that answer. Any more questions before we and wrap this up? Okay, then I thank you all for attending this webinar, and thank you very much, Carmen, for your excellent presentation.
Thanks
And
to you.
and if you have any questions or need anything, just contact us, and contact details and lots of more information is available online. So,
Okay.
thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.